$1 trillion. That's the number Poland just crossed, and it puts her among the 20 largest economies on Earth. Meanwhile, Germany, Europe's supposed engine, just posted another quarterly decline. For 35 years, the West told Poland to catch up. Now the question isn't whether Poland is catching up, it's whether Germany can catch her. Picture Poland in 1990. Empty shelves, ration cards, lines that wrapped around city blocks for bread, for sugar, for anything at all. A mother counting coupons at a kitchen table, wondering if there'd be enough for the week. A per capita income of $6,700, barely enough to imagine a future, let alone build one. Now picture today, that same country, that same nation, sitting at $55,300 per person. The Los Angeles Times didn't bury that number, they led with it. That's not incremental, that's not luck. That's an 8-fold transformation in one generation. The kind of leap most economists spend entire careers waiting to witness. The kind that rewrites textbooks instead of footnotes. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Poland's nominal GDP has now pushed past $1 trillion, a threshold that, quietly, permanently, moves her into the room with the world's 20 largest economies. Bloomberg's Matthew A. Winkler put it plainly. He called Poland a power among EU countries, the fastest growing economy in the Union, backed by the strongest emerging market currency on the continent. Let that sink in. Not promising, not up and coming, a power. Poland's growth wasn't a headline that appeared overnight. It was compounding year after year, while other nations assumed the story was already written, that Poland would always be the understudy, never the lead, always mentioned as an afterthought in someone else's success story. But strong currencies don't happen by accident. Bond markets don't rush toward a country out of sentiment. Investors chase discipline. They chase competence, and they found both in Warsaw. So the real question isn't whether Poland arrived. She did. The question is, what was happening 400 miles west in the country that was supposed to be doing the leading? Germany was the model, the engine. The country every economics teacher pointed to when explaining what European strength looked like, the one nation nobody thought could stumble. Therefore, what came out of Distatis in the summer of 2025 landed like a contradiction nobody wanted to say out loud. German GDP fell 0.3% quarter on quarter in the second quarter of that year. Not a one-time stumble, a pattern. Distatis data show repeated quarterly weakness running through 2025. Not a single bad report, but a trend line bending downward, quarter after quarter. While officials searched for reasons to call it temporary, they kept using words like correction and adjustment. The spreadsheets said something else. Industrial output, the backbone Germany built its entire post-war identity on, came in weaker across multiple sectors. Factories that once symbolized German precision were now symbolizing German hesitation. Assembly lines slowing, orders drying up. The machine that ran Europe was skipping beats. And by August, Euronews confirmed the wider picture. Growth across Europe was slowing, with Germany posted alongside Italy at negative 0.1%. This wasn't isolated. This was Germany dragging the continent's average down with it. Here's what makes this sting more. Some analysts have gone further, suggesting that if these relative trends continue, Poland could close the entire gap with Germany in roughly 12 years. 12 years. A number that would have sounded absurd a decade ago. laughable even to anyone who remembered the ration cards. So Germany isn't just having a rough quarter. Germany is having a rough identity crisis, one measured in status spreadsheets, one quarter at a time. But numbers alone don't explain why one nation stalls while another sprints. Something structural is happening, and it's not happening in Berlin. So what does Poland actually have that Germany doesn't? Start with the obvious: stable institutions and full EU market access. Government reporting is direct about this. Poland's growth is anchored in institutional stability, in a young, educated workforce, and in a large internal market that doesn't depend on any single trading partner to survive. When one export market wobbles, Poland doesn't collapse with it. It absorbs the shock and keeps moving. Then there's the money. EU funds have poured into Polish infrastructure, roads, rail, energy grids, public investment that compounds year after year, much of it EU-financed, feeding directly into exports and domestic consumption alike. Every new highway, every modernized rail line, every upgraded power substation, all of it building capacity that didn't exist a generation ago, capacity Germany assumed it would never need to compete with. But here's the detail most people miss entirely. Poland's pay-to-productivity ratio has kept its exports competitive for 15 straight years. Sit with that for a second. 15 years of maintaining an edge that most economies lose within 5. While wages rose across Western Europe and squeezed margins, Poland found the balance. Competitive enough to win contracts, prosperous enough to keep growing, disciplined enough not to price itself out of its own success. None of this happened by accident either. It traces back to the liberalization policies of the 1990s, decisions that opened the door to private investment when the rest of the region was still deciding whether capitalism could be trusted at all. Warsaw didn't wait for permission. Warsaw moved. Poland trusted it early. Poland built early. And 3 decades later, that early trust is compounding into strategic location, macroeconomic stability, and a workforce that global manufacturers are actively choosing over Western alternatives. Germany built its empire on legacy industry. Poland built hers on adaptability. And adaptability, it turns out, ages a lot better than legacy. Now zoom out, because this was never just one good decade. This is a long catch-up story, one built brick by brick on reform after reform, starting from a country that once rationed food to its own citizens and watched its factories run on borrowed time. EU and NATO entry. Say that slowly, because it's easy to skip past. Those weren't ceremonial memberships. They were the geopolitical stability that let Polish businesses plan 5, 10, 20 years ahead without wondering if the ground beneath them would shift, without wondering if the borders would hold. Infrastructure followed. Roads connected factories to ports, rail connected cities to markets. Every kilometer built was capacity added, capacity that Poland didn't have to import or borrow. It built it, brick by brick, from the ground up, one government budget at a time. And underneath all of it, private investment in education, in firms, in people. Human capital doesn't show up in a GDP chart the week it happens. It shows up 10 years later when a country suddenly has the engineers, the managers, and the skilled labor to compete with nations 3 times its size. This is what makes Poland's rise different from a lucky quarter or a currency swing. It's cumulative. Every reform stacked on the last one, every year of stability made the next year of growth possible. Nothing about it was inevitable. All of it was earned. Compare that to Germany's story right now. A country managing decline quarter by quarter, reacting instead of building, patching instead of planning. One nation spent 35 years constructing momentum. The other is spending 2025 trying to explain why the momentum stopped. That contrast isn't temporary, and it isn't going away quietly. Now, let's be honest about the fine print, because credibility matters more than hype. Fact-checkers at Demagogue have noted that the exact moment Poland crossed $1 trillion depends on methodology and timing. The threshold isn't a single confirmed instant stamped on a calendar. It's a range, not a red line. And any honest accounting has to admit that. But here's what that caveat does not change. Worldometer, using IMF data, lists Poland's nominal GDP at $1.13 trillion moving into 2026. Whether the exact crossing happened in one quarter or the next, the destination is the same. Poland arrived. The paperwork is just catching up to the reality on the ground. Meanwhile, Germany's weakness isn't a rounding error. It's not one bad de statis release. It's a pattern stretching across 2024 and 2025, a durable trend, not a one-off shock, not a headline that disappears by next quarter. Even a 2024 annual GDP decline of 0.2% was written off as temporary. Then the next year confirmed it wasn't. And investors knew the difference. Poland's strong currency, Poland's rising bond market demand. Those aren't headlines. They're capital voting with its feet, quarter after quarter, toward the economy that keeps proving it can deliver, while hesitating on the one that keeps stumbling. This is the rebalancing nobody predicted 3 decades ago, when Poland was still counting ration cards and hoping for a better decade. A nation once defined by what it lacked is now defined by what it built. Germany still has scale, Germany still has legacy, but scale without momentum is just size, and Poland has the momentum. $1 trillion was never the finish line. It was the moment the world finally noticed the race had already changed. If you want to understand how far this rebalancing still has to go, subscribe to Economics Edge, because Poland's story is just getting started.